Today we have a sit-down with Jeffrey Combs on Trek Tuesday. From the icy diplomacy of Weyoun, to the scheming ferocity of Brunt, and to the honorable fire of Shran, Combs has shaped some of the most iconic alien characters in modern Star Trek. This is Exploring Humanity through Sci-Fi. This continues my mission to get a better understanding of ourselves through sci-fi, fantasy, horror, and comics as our mode of exploration. I was joined by Dr. Howard Margolin of Destinies, the Voice of Science Fiction, which celebrated a very key milestone, over 40 years on the air.
You're known for playing two roles on the same series, which is a very unusual situation, especially in a recurring character, both Weyoun and Brunt on Deep Space Nine. I think that's the first time that anybody's ever done that in a recurring capacity, isn't that true?
Yeah, it's kind of an embarrassment of riches. I actually, during the when it was in its heyday, and my agent would call and say, they want to book you. I got to actually say which role, and my agents would go, "Oh, that's right. Let me call you back." I don't know. There were actually a few days where I would be in one makeup and then go back to the makeup trailer, get completely out of that, and get into the other one to finish off an episode or something. There was one episode where I was in both. I was both characters in the episode. So a rare occurrence indeed. And don't think that at the time I didn't know it. It's not one of those situations where I took it for granted at all. I was then and always have been very grateful for that. Having come from the theater and believed in versatility of the actor, it was a nice dream come true to actually see it, personify itself like that, because it's very rare indeed.
More with Jeffrey Combs in a moment.
Would you have wanted Weyoun to meet Brunt?
Yeah, I actually had an idea where they would never say a word to each other, but they would walk down the hall, coming from opposite directions, pass each other, nod, take a few steps, and then stop, and then turn around and look at each other, and then continue on. Nothing said, nothing, not a word of dialogue. However, that would have taken really literally days, because with doubles, the time it takes to get into the makeup, out of the makeup, paying me twice, it was a sort of a logistical an expensive gag. So we did the next best thing actually in that episode. They actually cut from one character to a scene where the other one was in it. So next best thing, I suppose.
I thought was funny was how many times Weyoun would die. So one actor gets like one good death scene and you got so many.
And that sort of came out of necessity. Because the first time I played Weyoun, in the script, the character died. He was killed. I might add by Clarence Williams III, which I always thought was really cool. So Link from Mod Squad killed me. I was totally stoked about that, but I'm showing my geekdom here. But once they saw the dailies and they realized that they liked this character, they probably did a Homer Simpson, what do we do? And they quickly sort of came up with the sci-fi solution of just cloning him. And then it became sort of a running joke where, I'd get killed and then in the next scene I'd walk in. A lot of the actors were worried that their character would get killed off. I didn't have that worry. Go ahead, it doesn't matter.
I think what was cool too is you also defined the Andorians in Enterprise, and we're actually in the last episode and all. Kind of a noble thing. His character evolved during the course of the series too.
Yes, he did. I mean, and once again, that was when they asked me to do to come on to Enterprise, they graciously just asked me if I would do it without really specifying what the role was. I was a little reticent because I'd done so many Deep Space Nines, and I just kind of felt, I've sort of done the Star Trek thing. I'm not sure about that. And then they pointed out that it was an Andorian, and being a original series fan, I realized that was a cool opportunity. And then getting the script, I really sort of realized that I could maybe bring something to an edge and a whole different way of looking at the Andorians as a species to the project. My real main question when I agreed to do it before I read the script was, it really, honestly, was, does he die? Because if I was going to do this, I wanted to have the door open that I could, come back and portray the character again. So I'm glad all that worked out. So,
what were the makeup challenges involved in having mechanical antennae on your head?
Well, it was kind of a work in progress. I mean, they were really quite well done, but, like most things, it's kind of designed on the fly a little bit, so that the apparatus, which was actually kind of a little thin plastic helmet that had to be attached to my head before makeup was put on, that thing didn't quite fit very well. And the first few times I was relying quite a bit on aspirin or Tylenol or anything they could give me, because it was a bit like a vice on my head. But they went back and kind of conformed it to, like my actual size of my head, and I had some relief. A little bit distracting because they're right up the top part of my neck, on the back of my skull, is a little gearbox with a radio control on my belt, wired down my neck to a radio box, controlled the antenna, and the little gearbox had a little whirring little gears in there, and I was very afraid that would be, in the middle of a dialogue, I would hear and get distracted by it. But honestly, once the cameras were rolling, I don't ever recall hearing the gearbox. So I must have just zeroed down into a place where, I wasn't hearing it. And fortunately, the other concern was that it would, that the microphone, the boom up above my head would pick it up too. But they managed to get around that too.
More with Jeffrey Combs in a moment.
The 4400, unfortunately, was just canceled, but I loved your character and his relationship with Summer Glau in the show. It was very much like a David and Lisa kind of relationship, and I really liked that.
That's a good analogy for it. It's sort of a May-September sort of romance. I like the vagary of it. I like that they were sort of spiritually deeply committed to each other, but we didn't have to get into the specifics of is it a platonic relationship, is it physical, it didn't matter. It's not important. What's important is that they were there for each other, and time-space continuum had absolutely nothing to do with how they related or felt about each other, but you knew that they were deeply devoted to each other. Having said that, I talked with Ira, and he said if he could have, because of her availability, Summer was sort of obligated to the Sarah Connor Chronicles, he would have married them in the last episode, but we weren't able to do that. So that was sort of a interesting fact that I didn't know he was thinking about.
Your movie House of Reanimator is supposed to be coming out this year. How does it... No?
No, it's not.
Oh, it's not? Is it being made?
It's not going to be made.
It's not going to be made. Oh, so much for that question then. I'm sorry.
Speaking of question, though, I do have one about your Justice League question. I thought that was great. One of your best performances, even though it was just your voice, obviously.
Thank you. I love that. Being part of that. I don't really pursue voiceover work. They kind of came to me and asked me if I would do that. So I was thrilled to do it. It was always nice to go into those recording sessions because you really never knew who was going to be in there. Virginia Madsen or Robert Forster, or it was just always a really nice surprise. Oh, that guy is so cool. That's a whole other technique, voiceover stuff. It's but a challenging one. I enjoy it.
They drew you well too.
Not my world. I have no control over that. But it was cool with the fedora and everything. It's cool.
Well, in addition to voiceover work, you have done at least one audiobook. I have a recording of you reading the complete Reanimator series by H.P. Lovecraft.
Right.
Was that your project yourself?
Yeah, that was just mine. That was a long time ago. I'd kind of forgotten about that. Just kind of a long time ago, I thought, that someone ought to maybe just do a book on tape of the original Lovecraft tale. I had to edit some of it because it was a serial. It was in a pulp magazine, and recaps. You can't really read all of them because it gets rather repetitive. So I did some judicious editing as I went along, but hopefully it's of a piece, as they say.
Last question. Is there anything that you're working on that we can look forward to seeing you?
I'm leaving next week to go to Louisiana to shoot a movie called The Darkest Evil, which I actually find sort of a funny title, as opposed to what? The lighter evil? It's a silly title, but Darkest Evil. And I just got through doing a voiceover actually for a comic book that they're going to not really make live action, but sort of shoot the panels and with voiceover. Kind of a cool comic book called The Night Driver, which is quite a very dark, sort of noirish kind of night gallery sort of thing. Look it up on the internet. It's kind of cool.
Jeffrey Combs isn't just a recurring guest star. He's part of the DNA of modern Star Trek. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Tony Tillotto.